You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wood.
And I'm Jennifer Connor.
From Equestrian Businesswomen, and you're listening to Equestrian B2B, the podcast that brings together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and equestrians for conversations about how they build and sustain a successful business.
On today's show, we talk to Annie Finch about leaving her corporate career at Estee Lauder to become an entrepreneur and starting her own company, Catherine Girl Cosmetics.
Annie Finch grew up in Santa Barbara, California. She attended the University of Arizona and received a degree in elementary education. Her plan was to be a teacher and ride her horses after work. But Annie started working for Estee Lauder in college and moved up the ladder from stock girl to the vice president of sales, marketing, and product development for North America, based in New York City. She received additional business training through Estee Lauder at Vassar College and Harvard University. She has developed and launched the Tom Ford Beauty and Aerie Lauder beauty brands. The idea of starting a makeup company started with Annie leaving her corporate career and moving her office into her favorite horse farm. Catherine Natural Cosmetics was born in 2014. With her name on the box, she made sure to never put any harmful ingredients. Annie is raising golden retrievers and riding horses, so everything has to be cruelty-free. This is always non-negotiable.
Born Catherine Ann, Annie is a fourth-generation Catherine girl. She believes that girls can do and be anything they want to in life. Annie has ridden horses from the age of 7. After college and while working in cosmetics, she found her true passion as an adult amateur at the age of 36. She rode and showed the A circuit on the West Coast with the help of Diane Langer and Tara Metzner. After moving to New York to run Estee Lauder for North America, she went out to meet Andre Dignelli and Patricia Griffith at Heritage Farm. Annie spent winters in Wellington and was circuit champion in the adult jumpers with one of her horses. After moving back to California, she won the PCHA medal finals, North American Adult Equitation Championships at Capital Challenge, and the Ariat National Adult Medal Finals. Annie has a pure love of the beauty, style, and skill in the equitation rings and is looking forward to conquering a few more adult medal finals. Join us at the 2023 Saratoga Women in Business Spectacular on July 11th through 16th at White Hollow Farm in Stillwater, New York. With this year's theme of wellness, prosperity, and wisdom, you can hear from speakers, listen to panels, participate in activities, and network at our cocktail party. Mark your calendar to save the dates now and stay tuned to hear more from equestrian businesswomen about the schedule and exciting news to come.
Annie, it's great to have you here today to talk about yourself and your business history and starting your company. And we're really excited to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. Makeup and nice people. It doesn't get any better.
So I want to start out kind of talking about your education because it kind of doesn't have a lot to do with where we're going to be going in the conversation. And I just find it very interesting. And I wanted to know a little bit about what made you pursue your education as your career initially.
So my mom was an elementary school teacher and I grew up in Santa Barbara and it was so fantastic. She drove me to school and then we rode horses after school together. And it was such an incredible life. And so as I was graduating, I was like, oh my gosh, now what am I going to do? In college, I'm just going to go to college. I brought my horse with me for a minute and we didn't show in the major A circuit, shows. We just showed in the local shows and rode, every day after school, cleaned our tack, washed our horses. And I was like, oh, this is a nice life for me. I'll teach school and then I'll be able to ride and, after school, like my mom does and have the summers off and, and be around kids. So I spent time in her classroom also. So I love children and kids and I love watching people grow. That's become sort of my main, focus is watching people grow, learn, get challenged, have their individual successes. So I was really comfortable with the kids in the classroom and I loved it. So I was like, okay, I'll study, elementary education. I'll get my degree. And I did some student teaching and I had a great time with the kids. And then, I learned stuff, they learned stuff. And But then really, you're probably going to ask me how I segued into beauty. Is that what?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So how'd you,
Okay, you're on a great path. My mom was like, life is good,
Yeah.
has a plan. And then all of a sudden I went to my roommate went to summer job. And I was like, well, you have a job. Like, what am I going to do? I'll go to where you're getting a job and I'll do that too. So I went, and I always loved makeup since I was a kid. Like, I had every color eyeshadow that was made at our local pharmacy. And, I was obsessed with all the color and lipstick and everything. And so I went in and said, oh, I should sell makeup. And they were like, do you have experience? And I said, well, no. And they go, oh, well, then you can't have that job. And I said, well, you haven't even interviewed me. So if you want to interview me and tell me I'm not good at this, that's fine. But you at least need to interview me. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're annoying. Of course. Okay, I'll interview you. Then I'll tell you can't have the job. But it's kind of an interesting story because she said, we have this program where you can be a floater where we need help. So every day you come in, you're going to look in this red book and you're going to see, what department you work in. So every day I came in that I was supposed to work, and I looked in the red book and my name wasn't in it. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to write my name in it, and I'm going to write cosmetics. And then I went down to cosmetics and I was like, I'm here to work today. And so the ladies were so nice. They're like, we just got an order in. Why don't you unpack stock? So I unpacked boxes, and then I finally got to sell makeup. And they were like, why don't you just work in the makeup department? I was like, I'm trying to.
Right.
Then when I graduated, I was like, Mom, this makeup world is so fun. I think I'll just sell makeup. And she was like, whatever makes you happy is the most important thing. So
That's good. Yeah.
I really got to experience putting makeup on people and seeing how it changes their life, just how they feel about themselves. And it was every day I had stories about customers and people, and it was really, really amazing. So I was like, this is a good path for me.
I'm so impressed that you were able to advocate for yourself when you went in for a job interview, because I feel like I'm the type of person who would be like, oh, they said no. Okay. And, move on. And I feel like this is kind of a recurring theme in a lot of our entrepreneurs, that they're very much like, no, you have to interview me, or no, I need to have this, or no, I'm going to, push back on a big company that's trying to block me. And so I'm just so impressed with that, really. Did you always have the passion then for the skincare and the makeup?
I did. I was always playing in makeup and had every shade possible, and it's funny because my mom only wears lipstick. She's like an incredible golfer, sweet gray hair, lipstick, and that was it. She's like, whatever makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
One night I came out, I was going to some dance at school, and she looked at me and she was like, whoa. She's like, is it Halloween? I mean, I had like the rainbow eyeshadow. Yeah. So Estee Lauder really taught me, so much. And it was just so much fun. And it really, you get to be creative, and you get to decide how you want to present yourself in the world, and what makes you feel good. And I laugh too, because when I started showing in the adult equitation, and I was in Los Angeles, and I was riding with Diane Langer, and she's like, okay, you got to get on and go. And then it's like, where's Annie? She's in the tack room putting on lip gloss. I was like, can't hurt. Like, it was always like strategic. Like, we don't want to have bright red lips. We want to just look like natural. And yeah.
Did that routine become like a good luck thing? Like, did you have a special shade that you would wear every time, or
like light pink? And I actually named it after my horses now. So it's just something that makes you feel good. So if you're going to go present yourself, in public and compete, if it makes you feel better, then you do whatever you're doing better. I always tell well, I did another interview with a British beauty company, and they were like, we don't understand sport beauty. And I was like, I'm telling you, if I go, do you go to a gym? Do you run on a treadmill? Like, what do you do? I said, if I'm on a treadmill and I have a little bit of eyeliner on and I'm supposed to run, 2 miles, I can run 3. Or if I just feel better. I said, if I don't have it on, I'm like, oh, I just want to get out of here. I don't feel good. I'm tired, but when you feel good, now it's eyebrows. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. It's like whatever makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's how I justify buying very expensive breeches. Cause I'm like, oh, you have to look the part to be the part.
And then I ended up riding at Heritage, and it was like, he has the best theory. I don't know if I say it out loud. He's like, you start the winner. You're at the in gate, you won, So if you look the part and you're ready, then, he's like, the judges want you to win, so look the part.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you attribute to your success in the corporate world as you, moved into that side of the industry?
So it's really interesting. So I started in the field sales organization. So I rose through, account executive coordinator positions to regional positions before I got into the New York office, which was incredible. The whole thing was corporate, but before I got there, and there's a few things that I always did the job. I went to one training, and I went to the teacher afterwards, and she was teaching, the seasonal colors and all the stuff. And I was like, how do I get to be you? Like, I want to do that. And she said, whatever job you have, do it the best you know how. She's like, if you're cleaning your counters, or if you're stocking this, or whatever you're doing it the best you know how. So I went back to work. I had, the cleanest counters, the highest sales, I was always, doing it the best I could. And at the same time, I was doing the job I was told to do. And then I was like, what is the next job? And then I would learn what they were doing. So this one woman used to come in once a month and walk around and point at things, when you go into, and I was like, what does she do? Like, she wears a great outfit and she points at things. I was like, I could do that. And then, and so I asked a lot of questions. I sat with, all the numbers, and I learned all of that piece, and I learned all the inventory. And so by the time the next job came around, I already knew how to do it. And they were automatically like, oh, Annie should do this job. Annie should have this job, So I laugh, I was with them for 23 years and I never interviewed,
Wow.
It's always like, okay, here's a job but I told everyone right away. I was like, oh, I want that job. And people would laugh, and they're like, you can't have that job. Like, thousands of people want that job. And I was like, oh, no, I would be really good at it. And they're like, no, you haven't done it yet. I was like, oh, I know. I could figure that out. And then I always made, people are really surprised to hear this, because they always want to make themselves look good in a corporate world. And I always tell people, make your boss look good.
Yeah.
If you're in a corporate world and you want your boss's job, your boss has to get promoted.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
So you're not going to have their job if they're still there. So when you're in a meeting, you better make your boss look amazing. If she forgets to say something, pass her, send her a text saying, remind them to say this, or provide information for her so she looks brilliant, even if she's not, and then she'll want you to win also.
Right.
The bosses ahead of you will want you to get promoted because it makes them look good. So, it's a very interesting dynamic. When I left, at the top of where I was, and I said, I don't know if I'm good at the job or I'm good at the politics.
Right.
And
That's so much a part of it, I'm sure.
and they said, you're good at both, so you had to be good at the politics to get the job done. So, and it takes a lot of hard work. I have a lot of friends who their kids are working, and they're like, oh, Susie works so hard. She works too many hours. And I was like, she's supposed to.
Yeah. That's how you get somewhere.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't, did you want me to feel sorry for her? Because, when I finally got to New York and I was a big vice president, I would do meetings from 8 to 5. I was scheduled every 15, half hour. Like I just, you think it's an office job where you're sitting at a desk, and I was literally running the halls, like running into meetings. And then at 6, when the meeting, or 5, when the meetings were over, I would stay till, 8, 10 to do the actual work. Follow up on the meetings, do what I needed to do. And then, it's a lot of work.
Right.
But you love, you pick what you love.
Exactly.
You pick what you love. And then I'd ride on the weekends.
And I feel like you were saying, so many young people, maybe I'm being a little facetious, but, talking about a work-life balance. And I was like, you can talk about a work-life balance when you've been working for like 20 years and you've put in the actual work, I don't know. It's like,
well, and people tend to think, like, people now are like, oh, I want your job and you have your own company and it's so, glamorous and this and that. And now you have the flexibility to go to yoga at 10. And I was like, that's because you stay up till 10 doing spreadsheets and hunched over the computer, it's more work. Having your own thing, because you're in that constant level of pressure,
Absolutely.
You're not getting a paycheck unless you do something, so I don't know. I think people are different now. I think when you look at influencers and you look at people on social media, and some people are like, oh, all she does is sit around and take photos, and it's really hard.
There's a lot of behind the scenes that nobody sees.
I have a podcast. Like, it's really hard.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do Friday lives on Instagram and talk about makeup every Friday. And I did it for, 6 months or a few months. And, it's hard.
Yeah. And especially now, like, I think you can't just throw up any random photo and expect it to perform well. You have to know what goes into it. And, you have to know your audience and what copy works best and what people respond to it. Yeah, there's so much more to it than that. And I consider social media and doing it for someone as a full-time job. It's not something that you can do halfway, because it won't be effective.
No, and it has to be so authentic. Like, every time I think I want someone else to do it for me, I'm like, oof, like, I still have to put in my own stuff. And, I still do a lot of it myself. And, but people say to me, what are you selling? Are you selling makeup, puppies? What? I was like, I don't know. It's a whole thing. We like it.
It's a vibe.
Yeah. People look at it and they're like, oh, it's so pretty. Oh, it's so personal. Oh, it's so, and I was like, it is,
because it's you.
I love every bit of it. People ask the question, when I started, I was riding at Heritage, and I have the photo behind me. Lily Keenan was just coming off of ponies and, riding in the Hunters, and Maggie was there, Maggie McAlery. And, they were like, oh, you're starting a makeup company. We drive back into the city together, and they're like, are you going to do this? And how do you do it? And, it was such inspiration and so much fun. So I don't know, you just have to really love what you're doing.
One more question.
Sure.
Do you think your background in horses helped you in the corporate career?
Oh, absolutely. Because, I think kids, when you have responsibility and you have to take care of something and you have to work hard and you have to perform, especially in competition, even if it's not competition, I always say, like, the lesson is they're like, what are you trying to do? Win the lesson? I was like, yeah, I'm trying not to make it, cause a scene. Like, I just want to get through it. I love it, but I just, so I think all of that prepares you for having the confidence. I mean, you have to go in the ring, and it doesn't matter how much money your horse costs, who you are, you have to be at the in gate and you have to go in and perform. And I think that teaches you a lot in life,
For sure.
I watch the top jumper riders a lot, I'm watching Longines and stuff. And you know what? it really, they screw up just as much as anybody else, right? And so I
Yeah.
often am like, when I'm beating myself up over it, I'm like, you know what? The guys at the top also make mistakes.
Yeah. And they work hard and have the same things like, the routine and the plan and the strategy. And
Totally.
I'm lucky enough to be, Andre's one of my best friends and Patricia. And so I end up hanging out, in the trainer world, but I'm, client amateur. And, by the time we're talking about bits and this and that, it's like problem solving and,
Mhm.
Yep.
and then you think, the other day, I told someone, oh, it's like Groundhog Day, at this horse show, like the same people, the same this, the same that. And then I realized the horses are always new. The clients are always new. Like the arena might be the same, but everything's always changing. And you have to adapt to that,
Mhm.
I remember Diane Langer once said, I was like, oh, my horse kind of is doing this and that, which I never normally do. But I was like, oh, it's a little odd. And she's like, you have to learn to ride the horse you have. Like that's
Right.
what you have today.
They're not the same every day.
Not the same, So, and then she also had the greatest line is people would always say, I'm not ready to show. And she's like, you have to show. Like you have to get used to, you have to just
Right.
keep doing it. So you're never going to be totally ready. And I think that's the same with launching the company and people who
Right.
are starting companies. They're like, I'm not ready and I'm working on the plan. And I was like, you just got to make decisions. Like, okay, this is going to be pink. It's going to have a heart this time. Like yes or no. And then you have to decide. And then you just have to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you're like, that package wasn't really big enough. And this wasn't really this. And maybe everyone likes pink better than brown. And, you evolve.
Right.
That's what, that's part of the, like when you said at the beginning of not taking no for an answer, you don't look at something and go, oh, it didn't work. I'm done. I failed. Or, I don't know. You just kind of do the workarounds or the next thing, or, what can you do differently? So
Mhm.
it's a little tricky to work in for me in particular, because I'm always like, what can we do better next time? No matter how great it was, and then as big as we are, it's like, okay, how are we going to get bigger?
Yeah.
So we're always looking to the next thing, but that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice for people to kind of want to evolve themselves in their careers. Is there other advice that you would give somebody who's trying to move up in the corporate ladder?
If you're trying to move up in the corporate ladder, it's very interesting. Like complaining about your boss and complaining just doesn't work. I had some really good advice because I've had so many bosses, and it's like, I terrible bosses. And somebody just said to me, watch what they do and make sure you don't do it when you have that job. So you're actually learning from them as well.
Yeah.
And I think being flexible, people said to me, you can't have that job, but I moved around a lot to cities that I would have never typically lived in. So for the job,
Right.
and so every 2 years I was able to be the next job, the next level, learning the next thing. And, but I also say, be flexible and ask a lot of questions. Like we're so busy trying to tell people we're perfect, like, oh, I'm ready. Instead of saying, hey, like I had a boss and I was like, I'm a school teacher. Like I didn't learn P&Ls and finance and numbers person, but I didn't study that. So I'm in a meeting. And then afterwards I said to my boss, hey, can you meet me early for breakfast and teach me this really quickly? And he's like, he started laughing and he was like, yeah, I guess I can. Okay, I got it. This, but I had to ask somebody to teach me,
Right.
So
I definitely think that can apply in the equestrian world as well. Whether you're trying to start a business, some kind of equestrian business, or you're a trainer or a rider, don't you think that those are things that can apply there?
I think in life, and it also bonds people together. So then all of a sudden you have a champion. Like if you go to somebody and say, how do I do this course, or how do I start a business and manage these clients, or whatever, I was always like, how do I started late. So I rode when I was young, but we never counted strides, and all of a sudden I'm, 35 years old in a lesson and they're yelling all these numbers. And I was like, is it the green jump? And finally she's like, it was Tara Metzner. She's like, do you not know how to count? I was like, count what? What are you talking about? I learned 1, 2, 3 jump, but
Yeah.
And so from then on, I did Tara chapstick for her. I did my A+ Friends lipstick, and she's been an eternal friend, and she taught me how to count, and we were, Ariat Master of the Year points. And I had to ask the questions, and I came with this, horrible show outfit, and they were like, what are you wearing? And I was like, I don't know. Take me to the store. What am I supposed to wear? So I have this thing about fitting in, asking the questions, and then just fit in where you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
So, I literally went to USEP finals at Gladstone. I was vice president in New York and I wasn't riding. And I was like, okay, now where do I ride? And someone said, you need to meet Andre Dignelli at Heritage. And I was like, well, where is he? And they're like, I called the farm and they're like, he's at the show at, Gladstone. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Just give me the address and I'll go there. So I take a car service. I go out there. I was like, where am I? And then I ask around for Andre, and a couple of people are like, who are you? And then I meet all kinds of great people, because I think just being nice and polite, saying hello is always a winner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find him and I was like, hi, I need to meet you. I'm so excited. Here's a picture of my horse. And he's like, that's great. Who are you? And he's very nice. And he's like, okay, well, I have, 3 of the top 4 in the work off right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'll get back to you. And I was like, okay, great. So I took a train out to the farm with my boots, and I was like, hi, here I am. And he's like, okay, get on, ride around. We'll see what we've got going here, And
That's
so
great.
you just got to put yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he was like, okay. And then we did jumpers, and then we did Florida. And then I was like the one horse wonder, that's what I'm
That's awesome.
Anyway.
After kind of being in the corporate world and knowing, you got to a certain point in your career there, how did you have the courage to say, I'm going to go launch my own company now? How did you know it was time?
So it was first time to retire a little bit. And, I was like, I'm working so hard and all I'm trying to do is make money so I can ride. But then by the time I can ride, I have 2 days and 1 horse. Like this is not going, I'm not getting any better here.
Right.
So I went to the company, and it's actually, I don't know if you want to share this story, but was pretty cool. I had to reorganize the whole field sales force, and I had to eliminate, like 5 jobs. So I really reorganized the whole thing, and I eliminated myself.
Oh, really?
So I had a couple of years where they took care of me. And so I rode. So I got to transition nicely out of it.
Yeah. Interesting.
What happened was when I left, it was also a time where people were shopping online and social media was coming around. And I was like, I don't want to be stuck in this office. I remember being on the 40th floor in the GM building in New York City with Leonard Lauder himself. And I'm sitting in his office and telling him that I want to leave. And he was there to convince me not to leave. And I looked out his window over Central Park and I was like, there's a whole world out there. And I've been in here and I need to go, experience the world. And he's like, okay, you go and come back whenever you want. And I said, okay. And then off I went to the barn every day. And then I was, created. So it took me a year to figure out, what to make and reach out to my chemists and suppliers, but I knew people. So it was a little bit easier transition. Because I had really, you never know who you're going to work with and work for, which was the other, advice I give to people. You never know. you never know who's going to come back around and work for you, with you. You're going to work for them. Like, you just never know. And people are so important. And respecting everybody, every level, every groom, I always have this theory about companies and everything, is that it's a whole wheel. And it's not an org chart of who's higher and lower. It's a whole wheel of everybody on it and the goal being in the middle. And if one spoke is off on the wheel, it doesn't work. And so anyway, I don't know how I got on that tangent, but it's so important that the people in it. So I was able to have incredible relationships with people that helped me in the development of the brand that would never do a startup brand. They're like, my eyeliner company is the same company that does Chanel and L'Oreal and I was like, hey, it's me.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing? I was like, I need an eyeliner that does this and has a brush on the end. And they're like, that's not how it works. I was like, no, I've made it at home. It really works. And they were like, okay. And it's a product. Yeah.
So did you have products like in mind or already in development before you actually launched your brand?
Yes. So I knew that I wanted to make stuff for myself, and I knew what I wanted I couldn't find in the marketplace, which is unbelievable considering there's so much makeup out there. Everyone's like, oh, it's a competitive market. I was like, but nobody has an eyeliner with a real brush on the end that survives, riding and hot yoga. So, and I knew I really needed 5 things. And I said, with these 5 things, I can ride, I can go to a black tie event, and we're all so busy. And that's sort of the key of Catherine Girl. Like, we're clean, we're kind, but we participate in life, which is really being a Catherine Girl. And so with these 5 items, I could participate. I had a lip gloss, a cheek cream glow stick, a concealer, an eyeliner, and a mascara, and I was good. And so I was like, you just put a little bit more of it on at night. You use the eyeliner on your brows. You use the cheek color on your lips. Like, everything was multitasking on the go. You could actually do it in the car. So I remember leaving a horse show. I had a new horse that I was trying for medal finals, which was an old horse that had never done equitation. And we went around, we won all 3 classes. And I was like, I have to wait to see how it comes out at the end, if we're champion or not, and this horse was so amazing. And then I was like, I have to get to like the opera or something. And I was like, my dress is in the car. I was like, my hair's sweaty. I'll just slick it back, throw on some makeup and I'm good. And I was like, we're champion. I ran in and it was perfect.
That's great. And could I ask you a question that wasn't on the list, and feel free if you don't want to answer, but
as long as it's a movie question.
No, it's not. That's later. Was there any hesitation of starting a company that competed with your previous employer? Or was it so different because it was such a different idea?
It was so different. And it was also back in the day when people didn't start companies that much. There weren't a lot of new indie brands. So it's a little unheard of. So they were a little bit like, oh, that's so sweet, But I did something very interesting. I got my 5 products in my shopping bag, and they were beautiful. They still are, beautiful quality, beautiful. And so the first thing I did before I sold one product is I made appointments with Leonard Lauder and my, the presidents at Estee Lauder. And I had a full day of bringing my shopping bag and my 5 little items. And I made appointment. They all thought I wanted to come back to work, and because I just did appointments with them, and they were like, "Yay, Annie!" So I got on everyone's calendar. I'm in New York City, my outfit, my bag, and I was like, "Hi, I just wanted to show you what I did, show you what I made, and hope thank you for teaching me everything, and I hope I made you proud."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So they sat and opened every product, and the consensus was, they said, your company is going to be as big as you want it to be.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool to hear that they were supportive and not trying to squash, what you wanted to do because it was in the same line. products,
Yeah.
That's great.
It was interesting because at that point I really, they're entrenched in department stores. And I was like, I just want to sell online.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have big counters at Macy's. We did it. But it wasn't sort of the arena I wanted to be in. And so they didn't really realize how big online is. And so they were a little bit like, oh, that's separate, that's new. And then I would always go back when I launched something new, and I had a couple of people actually ask their advice. And at that point they were a little bit like, we're not really experts at, online. Because I was saying that, I was with the young people, and I was, on social media, and they were a little old fashioned. So then all of a sudden the tables sort of turned. Like I knew a lot more of what was going on in beauty now than they did, even though they're a multi-billion-dollar, company. I was talking about things like how product had to be photogenic, how it had to look good on, photographs, and how you can't tell people, they were always like, we only want our products together. We don't want them with other brands. And I was like, oh, I want to be with other brands, We'll use a mix of brands. I want to be with other clean brands. Like I'm really embracing everything. So it really showed, it was a big transition in the beauty industry. And I really was able to, I don't want to say get out at the right time, but it was really interesting. It's also interesting now that a lot of Catherine girls that are in college will call and say they want to intern for Estee Lauder, or they want that corporate experience, which I think is fantastic. So
cool.
I could go on and on. It's super fun.
What was your vision for Catherine Cosmetics when you started it?
I always think pretty big. So my vision was to have Catherine, and that we would end up being a little bit like Estee Lauder, but more in a digital way, where we have a lot of other makeup brands with us. And that was the original piece. But my number one goal was to have every woman in the world, every girl in the world, have one piece of Catherine. So that when they look in their makeup bag and they see the logo, they go, I got this. I can do anything I want in my life, and I didn't want to tell people what to do in their life. I don't want to, I don't think everybody should ride horses. I think you should find something you're passionate about. But I wanted, it's the same with me. Like before I did this, I have all my products like sitting right here. Like I look at them and I'm like, I can do anything. I am a Catherine girl,
Right.
And so we're actually in the midst of opening the Middle East in a large way. It's very interesting because I said to the people, my goal is, it was to have every woman in the world have a piece of Catherine in her bag, and that, it's happening. So
it's getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to discriminate where in the world and what's happening. But if that girl looks in her bag and she has a Catherine eyeliner, like her life is going to be better, and that's gives me the chills. I just got the chills just now. Yeah, that really does inspire me.
And so, moving into more of a global market, is that kind of the vision for the future, is to find more markets to move into?
Yeah. We'll be, around the world. We have some accounts in Sweden, which is really random. It's just a girl who lives here had a friend, and she's like, you have to be over there. So we're there. Canada's a little bit difficult. We try to do a lot there. Just with shipping to Canada is difficult. But yeah, I think, girls love makeup, and people ask me from the beginning, do you, maybe girls shouldn't wear makeup. Why do they have to conform to society's rules? And that whole thing about like, okay, the newscasters aren't going to wear makeup. And I was like, that, makeup is for yourself, it's how you feel. It's not because anyone's telling you to wear it. If you're wearing it because you're supposed to, or you're wearing it for a boy or a girl, whatever you're doing, it's for yourself, So That's important. So I think around the world, having products that you love, wearing them the way that you like to wear them.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has opinions about their brows. Everyone has their
Right.
own thing. And it's really funny, like who's a lipstick wearer and who's a lip gloss wearer. I was doing the 12 shades for my best friends was the idea for the lipsticks. And so one of the friends was Tara Metzner, the horse trainer. And I said, Tara, you're an amazing, loyal friend all these years. I want to make a lipstick because you're an A+ friend. And she just looked at me. She's like, I don't wear lipstick. And I was like, okay, Tara. She's like, I wear chapstick. I'm like, can I put some sparkle in it? She's like, yes, you can put sparkle. And it's one of our best sellers. But yeah, people are lip gloss wearers, chapstick wearers, lip balm wearers,
Right.
So everyone has their own thing. And it's like, I didn't tell her you have to wear lipstick. I was like, that's not, not how we roll in our Catherine world. So.
And does expanding internationally look like are you shipping directly? Do you have distributors? How does that set up?
Distributors internationally is the way we're going.
Yeah.
Here we ship direct to consumer, but we do have some wholesale accounts. But we love doing pop-ups. We love doing charity events, giving back. Our whole thing from the very beginning. People are like, you don't even make money yet, why are you giving back to charity? I was like, it's the
important.
Right thing to do. Yeah, it's the right thing to do. And then when you do the right thing comes back to you. So
yeah, we've talked a lot about CSR and really having your company stand for something other than making a profit. Recently, that was one of our speakers at the recent networking brunch we had, and also marketing to more of an idea and being something more than just the product that you sell. Yeah, which I think sounds like that's how you started your company, was because you had an idea that you wanted to sell, not just a lipstick.
Yeah. Because I didn't want to get into my lipstick's better than your lipstick. Like, I find that really awkward. I think everyone's is great. Mine has, certain ingredients and certain colors and a certain, feeling. It really happened on social media when I started seeing pictures of girls and their horses. And when, there's a lot of them now, but like when you're looking, not a riding, jumping one, but like when you're looking in your horse's eyes and your horse is looking back, and there's just that moment. And I was like, that's a Catherine moment. That's two hearts talking, and that's what we, represent, which is the kindness. Like the word kind to me, it's like you're kind to animals, you're kind to your skin, to yourself, to other people. Like that's, you help other people. So I don't always like to just say it's charity, because lately I've been, more concerned of helping individual people or individual animals, or, but it's just being kind and, doing the right thing. But that Catherine moment and I kept writing on there, oh, you're a Catherine girl. Oh, you're a Catherine girl. And Olivia Chowdhury at the time was my intern. Amazing, like international show jumping rider. And she's like on the floor of my, kitchen helping us do stuff. She's like, Annie, we think it's really cool, that you keep telling all of us we're Catherine girls, but like, what is that? And I said, it's girls who work hard, participate in life, and they do the right thing and they're kind. And I said, participating in life, like people said, oh, so-and-so should be a Catherine girl. She won this. And I go, it's not about winning. It's about participating. It's nice I won stuff, but the participation of just showing up at Capital Challenge, like I won just by showing up,
Right. Yeah.
You just show up in life. So I really had to explain like that whole thing. I had another girlfriend that said, oh, my daughter should be a Catherine girl. Or someone's daughter. She's really pretty. And I was like, well, what does she do? She's really pretty. It's nice I have a makeup company and I like pretty things, but you gotta have, a little something,
Right. It's more than just that.
So that to me was really important to explain what a Catherine girl is, and then have, the girls at the heyday of it. It's a little bit different now. It's a little bit more influencers, but we still have it. You apply online.
Yeah.
And so you have to answer these questions like, what charities do you believe in? And what do you do? All these things about yourself. And one time I had a dad apply for one of the girls, and this whole explanation, and the girls reading the applications were like, we don't know what to do with this. And I was like, oh, I know. They go, she has, 100,000 followers and she's this and that. And I was like, her dad applied. We don't do that. Like, if she wants to be a Catherine girl, she can apply. So then I replied to the dad and I was like, congratulations, you have a super successful, nice girl. If she'd like to be a Catherine girl, she could apply.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting because the girls in the office were like, oh, she has so many followers.
Right.
And then she applied and then she was great. So anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. So there's a rambling answer to that question.
No, I like it.
No, it's really cool. Can you talk about the experience you're having as an entrepreneur versus like your corporate experience?
Oh, corporate experiences people think they're stressful and they're amazing. And there's all kinds of, training and rules and all of that. When you're an entrepreneur, you do everything. And so it's not enough just to have a great idea. Like, you need a financial plan. You need a whole plan. Everyone, has their opinions about, Serena and Venus and that movie about them and the dad.
King Richard.
Yes. So, and everyone has their opinions about it, but boy, did I spruce up my plan after I watched that movie. I was like, that man had a plan,
Right.
And so you got to realize that you need a plan, and it's not just an investment deck or a product plan. It needs to be a full circle plan. Like, I looked at mine, I go back and look, what I did and what I would do differently, and, where there were holes in it. I had a great positioning, great product, great, financial plan, but the distribution plan is tough. Like, if you think you're just going to make something and sell it online, like, you have to really, like, you can have a beautiful website, but if you don't have a plan as to how you're going to get people there, and then how you get them to convert when they're there, like, I think you need a full plan more so. Like, I have a great idea. I'm going to make headphones that sparkle,
Right.
like,
You could have the best product in the world, but if you don't know how to sell it and how to get it into the hands of people, then you're never going to have success with it.
Exactly. So, so that's a little bit different than the corporate world. I remember when I went back to Estee Lauder to, I showed him the products at first, and then I would go back every time I was in New York, and I stopped by the CFO's office. And I used to go through the financial plans like all the time. Like, it was $1 billion company, boop, 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 oh yeah, we lost, we'll move it around here, the whole thing. I'm a numbers person. And so I sat in his office. I was like, it has a whole different meaning when it's your own.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Those reports have never been so important. Like, you got to say, like, oh, the corporate rules, and oh, they only gave us summer Fridays, and people tend to kind of, commiserate about, the problems of corporate. Like, I want to work from home, all these kind of things you complain about, but you also, I have to sit and, insurance and benefits, and, there are all these things that, when you're at Estee Lauder, you just sign at the bottom of the page,
Right.
Here I was having to meet with all these people about how to set it up and product insurance and, all these things. So there's a lot that goes into it other than, how much sparkle is going to be in the lipstick, which that is an amazing thing to do. That's
That's the fun part.
Yeah. So I guess, the difference is you have all that on your shoulders 24/7.
Right.
And then when you're in corporate, they take care of a lot of it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
how they do it or not, they take care of it for you.
Mm-hmm.
right. And people probably think, oh, being an entrepreneur sounds so great because you can do all the things whenever you want to do it. Like we said before about going to yoga class at 10 a.m., but there's a trade-off. And so the work-life balance, is it really that much different owning your own company versus working for corporate?
You just have more control of it.
That's what I was going to say. You choose when to do it. You may be working the same or more amount of hours, but at least it fits where you need it to.
And I think there's certain times in your life for it. Like
right.
At my age now, I get to spend more time with my mom. So like after this call, I'm spending the weekend with her and today and Friday, which normally I would have been like, oh, I have to go to the office today,
Mm-hmm.
So you get that quality time. And so there's certain times in your life where that's really important. And other times when you're like, focus driven corporate,
Yep, definitely.
But I do say I couldn't have done this so well without the experience I had.
Yeah.
And it's not just one piece of it. Like I was in the field as a salesperson and then you couldn't have gone from the field to just making your own products without being in the corporate office and being in product development and seeing how the whole corporation works.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can do it now, but you have to be really careful not to be taken advantage of. From like, there's some influencers who are like, oh, people come to them and I'm going to make product for you. And then I'm going to take all, I've had a few difficult, business dealings with private equity and, a lot, that's a whole nother movie in itself.
Right.
But you have to be really careful. And I say, I don't know if I should say this or not, but sometimes people are like, oh, you're pretty, you drink coffee, you make lipstick, like, oh, we're just going to take your company, and then it's like, and then you're nice and you're nice. And then when you're not nice, they're like, whoa, you're not nice. I was like, but you would never do this to anyone else. Like you just like a not so smart lipstick girl, I won't go on and on, but I think, just because you look a certain way and you're in a certain business, people have to take you seriously.
Yeah.
Well, so I think you have to be really careful of that. And that's why a lot of the times, my favorite Catherine girls are like the analytical finance girls who have long blonde hair and are like supermodels, like the supermodel finance girls I like love, So like you go to it, like even on the news channels, whatever anyone's talking about the news, they're like looking good and they're just hammering the tough questions,
Yeah.
You gotta, whatever you think, you got to appreciate that,
Right.
So,
and I think, recently in the equestrian industry, skincare and especially, protecting your skin from the sun has become so much more important, knowing how many hours you spend outside with horses and like sun shirts and the big sunshades for helmets and sunscreen, that sort of thing. And just taking care of your skin because there's so much more, environmental issues that can cause damage. Do you have tips for our listeners on skincare routines and anything, especially equestrians, should be doing to take care of their skin?
I think there's just some basics that really skin cleanliness, like making sure, we all use, the wipes to, take makeup off. And then, but really deep cleansing all the time is one of the most important things. And what I always remind people too, which is a little bit odd, it's what you eat as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just like running and not eating or eating a lot of salt, like it shows up in your skin right away. So sleep is when your body heals itself. So, but if you sleep and you eat right and you just keep your skin clean and then you use a nice sunscreen, that's going to be the best thing forever. I'm really happy to see the younger kids wearing sunscreen because, I didn't, and people like their skin looks amazing. It doesn't get sunburn, it's fine. But long term, you're like me, it shows up, and it's all the damage. But I really think healthy living is the first start to good looking skin. And I think it's great that we're all taking, I take so many photos, I drive everyone crazy. But we're always, being photo ready. So I think we tend to take care of everything a little bit more. So even though it's a health reason, it's also photo reason. But I think it's really important to take care of your skin when you're young, so you don't have to do, as much when you're older. So,
Right.
Yeah, I agree, because when I had melanoma cancer, they were like, "Oh, did you do tanning beds? And did you do, which I had, but I wouldn't say I did it regularly." And, thinking back about it, I spent a lot of time outside riding as a kid without sunscreen, just, leaving the house. It wasn't something we kept in our house or even thought about at horse shows growing up or even in college.
Never.
Never.
Like the baby oil and the sunscreen reflector. So
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I was all about it. And then I had to have sleeveless riding shirt, the whole
Right.
thing. So,
Yeah.
so I think it's great. People are paying more attention. We're doing a lot more skins coming up. We have a Wow Stick now, which has sunscreen in it.
Okay.
So it gives you a little glow and color and sunscreen at the same time, which has been, super popular. But I think it's so important. And to realize also that makeup is protective. So some people are like, "Oh, I don't want to clog my pores. I don't want to do this." Like, it's actually really good for you, what we have,
Mhm.
So I remember, riding and hot yoga without my eyeliner, which would seem like a normal thing to do, like not wear eyeliner. And I just remember doing, which I'm quite proud. I can do a headstand in yoga. So I'm doing and it's hot and the sweat is running in my eyes. My eyes are burning. I was like, how can my eyes be burning? I have nothing on. And then I realized I don't have eyeliner that actually blocked the sweat from coming in my eyes, which I know sounds really weird, but it's true. Yeah, it was really, so I think a lot of the makeup people tend to think as not healthy when it's actually very healthy for you.
Interesting.
A whole different approach.
And a lot of it has SPF in it, right? So
yes,
protection on top of having sunscreen. So it gives you that additional.
Yeah. people are funny about the numbers and adding up and how high. And it's like, just put a lot on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywhere you get a little extra is good,
Oh, so you were very successful in the corporate world, very successful entrepreneur. How did you balance that with riding and being so successful in your riding career as well?
I think it's, sometimes you have to say what's going to take priority versus what isn't. When you're climbing the corporate ladder, that it's your priority. And then you ride when you can. And then you make enough money to ride. So it's a teeter-totter. And then when riding was a priority for me, when I met you at Capital Challenge, I mean, I literally, this is kind of embarrassing. I don't know if you're going to share this, but I was trying to be year-end equitation adult champion on the West Coast. And so I literally had spreadsheets of I'm going to show in this show. And if I if I get third or fourth and I don't win, and my next other people. So I was doing projections. Of
Oh my gosh.
and I was I was supposed to go on vacation in Italy. And I was like, if I miss that show, it could throw off the whole year. Cause I did projections of they won in different shows and I didn't win in these shows. And then I would project out the horses too. I would be I have 2 equitation horses because that's too much for just one. And so not fancy ones, but the amazing ones I still have today. And and I'd be this one can go to this show, but it can't go 2 in a row. And this one can go to this show. So it really was, I had a folder and a file.
Wow.
So I really treated it like a job.
Yeah.
And that was the
gonna say
priority.
that. Right.
And so then when I did my goal, I met my goal. So I was like, okay, now the company is my goal. And so that became a priority. Originally, I was like, I'm going to ride in the morning and I'm going to do makeup in the afternoon. And isn't that fabulous? And yeah, I mean, I was working all day.
Right.
So I was like, the horse thing, then the horses retired. I always say the horses retire when I work more. And then when I work less, the horses come back. So it is a fine balance because you don't want to sit here and say you can have it all. I mean,
right.
I flew in one night and I was working for Estee Lauder and it was a big meetings in San Francisco. And I was like, it's medal finals. And they were at night at the Equestrian Center. I don't know what I was doing. I flew in, ran over there. I threw on my show clothes. I had on way too much makeup for a horse show. And it was the worst round ever. I was like, my head is not in the game. Like you can't, your head has to be in the game. So I'll also tell you a quick story about balance because I was like, okay, I have to be fit to ride, which is helpful. So I have a trainer and I go to spin class. So I'm literally like up at 5:30, trainer 6 to 7, spin class 7 to 8, back in the office, makeup. And my brother, and I was gaining weight and I was like not looking good. And my brother's like, what are you like? Why don't you just go to yoga and sleep? Like, what's wrong with you? And all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, I'll try that. And I got in a yoga class without my phone, without talking to people. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I was rested and I could function and focus. And so I think you have to always assess where you're at and assess your priorities and go with that. Because if you try to be everything to everybody all the time, it just can't happen.
Right. And I think of this too. It's kind of the same as like work-life balance, right? Where for me, I think of it as a pendulum swinging instead of a scale. And that it sometimes is, swinging more towards my work life. And sometimes it's swinging more towards my life. And I think
I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Because everyone's like one or the other, but it's really just like in motion. Like
yes, and exactly. And that's what I see this as too. Like you're riding. Okay, so you focus a little more on your riding and then you bring it back and you have to focus on your company and it goes back and forth. So I think eventually it evens out. And I think we get too caught up in the fact that we have to pick and, one over the other. Where if you just let it evolve, where, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit more time, but it's going to come back to me. I think that could relieve some pressure in your life.
I think so. And I think it's also hard to say like, okay, I'm going to stop at 5 o'clock every night, turn off my phone and computer. And it's like, that's stressful.
Yes.
Like,
that stresses me out more.
What's happening on my phone? It's like once in a while I'll forget my phone and I'm always like, things have happened. And I stressed out and I get it. I was like, okay, nothing. Like there's a sale at Crate and Barrel. I mean, like nothing.
Right.
Right.
But it's so stressful the thought you're missing something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are always like, you shouldn't be doing work emails after 6 o'clock and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but I'm picking up kids from 3:30 and then bedtime is at 8. I'd rather not look at my phone at that point of the day and then go back and catch up on things at 9 or 10 o'clock. And that's just how it works for me. It's you've got to find the schedule that fits where you are in life and what you're doing.
That's the ultimate work-life balance. If you can, it's like the yoga at 10:30. It's like I get up and do, the chemistry calls in the morning and then I do that. And then you do, you just make it work,
Yeah.
I take Peaches for coffee every morning. So coffee and a golf course walk. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so much fun talking with you and learning more about you and your company. And at the end of each episode, we ask the same 4 questions to every guest. And Connor starts with the first.
What is one action that women can take to make a big difference in their lives?
Just participate in life.
Yeah.
In everything, and ask questions. Mm-hmm.
What is the best habit that keeps you motivated personally?
To do some form of exercise.
Mhm.
horses, and I think and being with animals.
Yep.
It's your dog, your horse, whatever it is. I think that's very grounding.
This is the dreaded question. What's your favorite horse movie?
Oh my God. Can I just tell you, the horse movies that start with an accident, I can't even watch.
No.
Oh, I can't even watch them. They're not my favorite. I like Kevin Costner, but I can't watch all that Yellowstone. So I'm going to go with just the TikTok Get Ready With Me with the horse girls.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Get ready with me in the barn, and they clean their boots and they do this, and then it's amazing.
I would do that with my horse, but he gets very relaxed when I'm grooming him, and he drops down, so it would be probably flagged for pornography.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You could just scroll through that. I know. It's probably my favorite movie.
And who would you recommend to be a future guest on this podcast?
That's right. I was thinking about that so much. I would recommend Sierra Steinwald from My Charmed Horse. And she was an original Catherine girl. She was Catherine Girl of the Month. And she's a finance girl in school. And she has an amazing horse, Squishy. And she's had for a long time and brought him along. And she does an amazing job with him. And she's just super smart, hardworking. And she started this Charmed company and while she was in college. And I see it all over Instagram, and I'm super proud of her. So I think she'd be a great guest.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. And it's been really fun talking with you today.
It's been so much fun. Thank you for inviting me, chatting with me. This is great. I just love, I'll tell you one other thing Diane Langer said to me just last year. She said, the horses bring you to the people, and the people bring you to the horses. So I feel like the horses brought me to you guys, and then it just brings you back to the horses. And being in the community is just, it's such a gift.
For sure.
Amazing.
We agree. Annie has been nice enough to give us a discount code. Use podcast 30 for a discount of 30% off and a free Terra A+ Friends lip balm. Go to catherinecosmetics.com to get yours today, which is really cool. And we're so thankful that Annie offered that to our listeners, which is really awesome and generous. And
I know. And it's our first time having that. Code. So
really
that's
cool.
super fun.
So everybody needs to go and get theirs today, because I think I'm going to go buy some because I need new makeup, and I'm always looking for clean makeup brands. And I should have thought of this one earlier. Like, I've known about Catherine Cosmetics for a long time. I think ever since she started the company, because she came to Capital Challenge and she won, and I interviewed her and we talked about her career too. And she's like, I started this company. And so,
that's so cool.
Yeah, I've known about it for a while. So I'm definitely going to go take a look and fill my bag with what I need.
Yeah, I actually was thinking the same thing, because recently I've been like, "Ooh, I need some new makeup. I'm getting older. I need something that matches my skin a little bit better."
Yeah, and doesn't like settle right into all of the lines. Yeah.
Same. Oh, she was great, though. I really enjoyed talking to her. She was so much fun and so much energy, and just some really great tips that she had for everybody. I thought that I really liked her talking about like showing up and participating and how important that is in life. It's so important. Show up, do the job, dig in, and, also ask for what you want, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that when she said, when she first started, she wanted to sell at the makeup counter, and they were like, well, you don't have any experience, so you can't. But she's like, I think I'm just going to do it anyways. And, she got the experience by doing it. And I think that just goes to show, when you really want something and you're passionate about it, you really have to ask for it and go for it.
Yeah. And also, I was thinking about this in some of our last episodes, and I haven't really brought it up, but then it came across either a reel or a TikTok or something where they were talking about like doing all the things in a company so you can get the most out of that company. And I
Right.
think so many times you go into a company and you feel like, well, this is my position and this is always going to be my position. And, I'm just going to be there. But if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, I think that it is in your best interest to try and move around that company to learn all the different things so that you can have those skills if at some point you think you're going to move on and do something on your own.
Yeah. And I loved that she, had such good relationship with everyone that she worked with at that giant company to where she could go back after she basically quit and said, I'm starting my own company in the same line of business. And they supported her and gave her feedback. And like, that just goes to show how much, she valued her relationships there and how much they valued her as an employee to be able to say, we see that this is in a different lane because the way you're selling and what you're doing is a little bit different. And they didn't want to immediately sue her.
Right. Yeah.
Like I think a lot of companies would be like, no, you can't do that. You can't leave us and take everything that you learned and go start your own thing.
Right.
But they did, and they supported her. And I think that just goes to show, how much they valued her. And she valued what she got from that company and that experience.
Yeah. And I think that you can really apply this to any position that you're in, especially